complementary colors are side by side. They enhance each other's natural colors. And this phenomenon is what's called chromatic simultaneous contrast. And this effect was noticed by Leonardo da Vinci, but was later coined, and that term used of simultaneous contrast, by the chemist Michel Eugene Chevreul, who was a dye master for a tapestry studio in the 19th century. And what's interesting about this is when we are working with different types of colors, and in this example, complementary colors. And the complementary colors are just those colors that are opposite one another on a color wheel. And they are already contrasting with one another because complementary colors are not related in any way. But this type of contrast happens even more when those colors, those pairings of colors, are placed side by side. And there is another type of simultaneous contrast called achromatic simultaneous contrast, where black, gray, and white affect each other in different ways as well. And in interior design, this effect where each of these complementary colors enhances the color that each of those colors has, and in a way almost increasing the contrast between them, will be noticed more when these colors are in larger areas where we can perceive each color as a separate color. So this effect may not take place if those complementary colors are in smaller amounts. That could be maybe on a piece of fabric or a wallpaper, and we will perceive those different colors, but not as much. They don't enhance each other as much. And in fact, if that is seen more in the distance, it may become more neutralized rather than seeing those separate colors. And when we take a look at a color wheel, we'll notice which colors are complementary colors: orange and blue, yellow and purple, and then red and green. And they are completely opposite one another on the color wheel and completely opposite one another in having anything in common. I wanted to try out something with you and for you to kind of try this out for yourself to see if you can notice this effect happening. Let's start out with a room that has a blue wall. And the first image I'm going to show you is just placing a nice blue sofa against that wall. And those are obviously related colors. And we can see that it's a blue wall and a blue sofa. But say if we change things up a bit and we add in the complementary color of blue, which is orange. So changing that sofa color to orange and placing it up against this wall. What I want you to take some time to look at, do you notice any changes in how those colors look to you? Do they look a little bit more enhanced, or maybe in a way a little bit more intensified, or maybe just a bit more saying this is an orange color and the blue is saying this is a blue color? So just take some time to see if you notice any of that interaction. And we could also try it with starting out with an orange wall. So let's start out with an orange wall, placing an orange sofa in front of that orange wall. But then let's change it up and place a blue sofa in front of that orange wall. Take some time to see if you notice that the orange looks more orange and the blue looks more blue. So please share what you noticed in the comments and any observations you have about this simultaneous contrast effect. And this effect can happen with very vibrant, saturated versions of complementary colors, but this can also happen just with more muted versions of these color combinations. And another variation that can take place is if one of those colors is a little bit more muted compared to the other color, which may be more saturated. So for instance, in this exterior photo of this building, it's a reddish orangish brick building, but then they decided to paint the front door in this vibrant green. And right away, both of those colors are enhanced, but maybe just a bit more with that green. It really helps it to stand out a lot, to be the focal area of that building. And this is something that can happen as well when we're using neutrals. So maybe we're not using the version of orange or the version of blue that's a specifically pure color. Maybe we're using neutral tones like browns and tans and beiges, or even gray or white or cream that may have undertones to them, where when we place them next to those complementary colors, both of those colors get enhanced. So the undertone of those neutral colors will be more vibrant, and we'll notice that more, especially when it's placed next to its complementary color. In addition to working with saturated, vibrant, complementary colors, as well as softer versions, and then neutral colors that have natural undertones to them, and pairing them with their complementary colors. We also want to think of some other materials in our home where this could happen. Think about our wood floor or wood cabinetry in our home. Each type of wood will have a certain natural color to it, or color undertone to it. And of course, this will be enhanced or maybe changed a bit depending on the stain that is applied to that wood. And simultaneous contrast can happen as well when we're pairing wood with other materials in other colors, in complementary colors. This bathroom is a great example of that. They are using this kind of aqua blue tile on the wall, but the wood vanity is kind of in this orangish, yellowish tone, which is a nice complementary color to that tealish sort of aqua color of the tile. And we're getting that effect from this combination where the orangey tones of that wood come out much more and the blue tones of the tile are enhanced more just because of this complementary color contrast that is going on in that room. Even when we do have smaller amounts of one color and then pair it with a larger amount of the complementary color, this same effect can take place. Think of hardware or plumbing fixtures in our home, the different types of metal that we may use in our home for different purposes. We can use copper, which kind of has a naturally orangish tone to it, or even brass that has a yellowish tone to it. So when we are pairing that with other things in a room, we want to keep that in mind. If we want to pair up those colors with a complementary color, that's a way to kind of help uplift all those colors in a room. And this effect can be lessened when there is a separation in between those complementary colors. This could be even like a wallpaper where maybe we are using two different complementary colors, but then there is a white or another color in between those colors, and they're not touching each other and right up next to each other. So this effect is lessened, or maybe that effect is not happening as much as if they were placed right next to each other. And this is kind of a neat thing to know about. If we really want to kind of enhance and kind of bring out the colors in a room even more, that's where we would want to think about pairing them up and putting them side by side with their complements. And with any color and color combinations that we use in our home, it's always affected by the color of the lighting that we have in our home, or what's referred to as the color temperature, whether it's a warmer color temperature such as a more yellowy look or a more cooler temperature, which would be on the more blue side. And whether that's artificial lighting or natural lighting coming into a room, that lighting almost creates a very light filter around all of our colors, and that will certainly affect how everything looks and feels to us. When you are working with a complementary color scheme, it's a great way to go because it provides a lot of contrast and variety just by the nature that those colors are unrelated to one another. But keep it in mind as well, if you're going to use those colors next to one another, especially in larger areas, that it is going to create this phenomenon called simultaneous contrast, where each of those colors is going to bring out and enhance the other color's natural colors, which can be a really beautiful effect. So I'd love for you to take some time in your busy week to notice any complementary color schemes around you, whether that's in your home or when you're out and about, and see if you can kind of notice, especially when they're in larger areas, that those colors are kind of intensifying one another. So please share what you find out in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time when we discover more neat things about interior design. Take care.
Thank you.